But for Marx, he was never really about economics anyway. That was tertiary for Marx, economic criticism. Political criticism was secondary. Religious criticism was primary. Marx said that religious criticism is the criticism above all criticism. What is Marxism and why does it matter? Well, it matters a lot. We experience its effects every day. We don't even realize it. We don't need to know who Marx was. We don't need to know what Marx's teachings were to be experiencing it. Ideas have consequences. And not only to be consuming it in our experience, but also turning out to be producing it without realizing what we're producing. Marxism is an ideology built upon the 19th century German philosopher Karl Marx. His philosophy had various versions to it. You had Mao, Chairman Mao Zedong in China. You had Lenin, the Russian Revolution. I just got that flag from my wife's play. She directed Anastasia at the local high school. And I said, I need that flag. I've got a presentation coming up. The Russian Revolution, Stalin, Mao, North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, on and on and on. Under that regime, 100 million or more lost their lives, making Hitler turn over in his grave. The Germans lost. The German people apologized. They realized what they did was wrong. The Russians won. There was never an apology. And they've gotten away with murder. This ideology is deeper than you realize. Next to the Bible, the Communist Manifesto is the most sold book in human history. We would be incredibly naive to think that it died in 1989. Marx authored that and the Das Kapital. When I first read Das Kapital in a Marxist course in grad school at Purdue, I got it. I felt the bleeding heart that Marx felt, going through the Industrial Revolution at the time and seeing some of the squalor and the system and the pain and the poverty. You could see it happening in Russia, the nobility, the feudal system, the serfs, the peasants, the French Revolution, which Marx looked at and just loved, salivated, as did Lenin. You get why people want to revolt, and they want change, and they want hope in certain situations. Marx once said that philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways, but the point is to change it. Marx was an activist, not just a theorist. He was also another A word, which I won't use here. I'll just say he was a bum. Marx couldn't take care of his own checkbook. He never really had a job much of his life. He lived off the charity of his own family. His dad was a Jew, converted to Protestantism to continue his business. His mom was a Protestant, all nominal. Of course, Marx became an atheist early on. He lived off the charity of his parents. He lived off the money of his co-author, Engels. His wife's mother provided her with a maid, and he slept with her, sired a child, and occasionally allowed the child to visit his mother. It was terrible to his own family. Several of his own children committed suicide. Marx was not a good man. Then if Marxism is so bad, why do so many young people think it's so good? One reason is they don't remember their history. And we're living in times which is making it more and more attractive. When people think of communism, they think way back when, or they think if you talk about communism, if you talk about Marxism, they think you're talking conspiracy theory. Communism is an economic theory anyway, and is there any perfect economic theory? They contrast it with capitalism, and sometimes the way they're shown things in the media is that capitalism is evil. You have these greedy people. One person's greed is another person's envy, of course, right? But for Marx, he was never really about economics anyway. That was tertiary for Marx, economic criticism. Political criticism was secondary. Religious criticism was primary. Marx said that religious criticism is the criticism above all criticism. Notice the term criticism in critical race theory. Marxism holds that human societies developed through class struggle. It was built on conflict theory between the haves and the have-nots, the bourgeois and the proletariat. Those have-nots and the haves were in battle over the means of production and wealth accumulation. Utopian society, this dream, requires not only abolishing all private property, it's essential, but also abolishing religion. Marx even talked about the guillotine for serious religion. Nominal religion we could put up with for a time. Serious religion, there is no tolerance for it. None. Marx inspires a religion of revolution. That's what it's about. It is a worldview, and when you think again about critical theory or critical race theory, think about the first 4 letters of theory. Theology. It is a view of the whole world. It has its own view of reality, its view of knowledge, and its view of ethics, and it has a methodology. See, the Marxists, even the neo-Marxists, unlike the neo-atheists, who really have no serious ground for ethics, you might think that the Marxists don't either. But they see that they are on the right side of history, that there is a good and bad, even if that doesn't seem consistent with their viewpoint. Their view of reality and the way things ought to be is a view that some people, as a means to the end, just need to be eliminated, need to be canceled. Even some of the neo-atheists today in cancel culture are starting to find there's no grace here. Well, what about me? No, canceled. What's Marx's relationship to religion? Well, Christian religion teaches that God made man in his image. Marx turns around in his Thesis of Feuerbach, one of his influential philosophers. It is not religion which creates man, but man who creates religion. Marxism is a state-building worldview. It demands the whole of you. It is statist. At least that's the intermediate state, maybe called the dictatorship of the proletariat or socialism, that eventually will just wither away, as Marx thought and Lenin taught, and move into communism. In one sense, some of those defenders of it are right that it's never really been tried. It's never gotten past the success of even socialism in that sense. You get to the communist state of Russia, but it never withered away. Religion for Marx is, in a sense, real. It not only redistributes the good, but like religion, it tells us what is good, even without a foundation for good. Religion wasn't merely part of the oppressor class, creating a sort of Christian hegemony of oppression, but in fact it is the sigh of the oppressed creature. And so he sees himself, his viewpoint, as a liberator of these people who are giving into oppression and turning around and producing more oppression by religion.